Good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Fleming, and I am one of the business development team at Enhance. I'd like to welcome you to our MTech Virtual Summit. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about Microsoft Dynamics GP. Obviously, a virtual summit isn't ideal. We'd like to be out there with you, pressing the flesh, so to speak. But obviously, given the current situation, that's not possible. But one thing that we did think was very important is that we keep you as clients and prospects informed about what's going on with the market and about what we're up to. I'm joined today by Sharon Keegan. Sharon is one of our senior consultants. I hope you can see us both. She's the better looking one. Sharon's going to take us through a little bit more detail about Microsoft Dynamics GP and some of the new features a bit later on. She's actually going to dive into the product. But what I'm going to do is, next slide please, Sharon. What I'm going to do is, unlike previous Microsoft Dynamics sessions where you get a bit of a sort of timeline across the top and there's this version, this version, this version, and these are the features, I'm going to take more of a view from 30,000 feet of the Microsoft Dynamics space as it is at the moment. So I've dusted off my crystal ball to do that. It's a bit of a snapshot of where we are today. Things will change, obviously. That's the nature of life, the universe, and everything. But it'll be a bit of a view of where we are today. What I'll then do is talk a bit about the product lifecycle. Microsoft's new lifecycle has been out since October, but not many of you guys will probably be aware of it or be on it at the moment. Talk a little bit about the product roadmap, but then hand over to Sharon, who's actually going to take us through the product in a bit more detail. Just a quick one, questions. We're obviously a bit strapped for time today, and it being a virtual session, it makes it a little bit difficult. If you're an existing Enhance customer, please feel free to contact your account manager and discuss any concerns or thoughts you might have with them. If you're not an existing client, if you're a prospect, then we've got contact details at the end. Please feel free to reach out to either myself or Sharon. We'll put you in the right direction. There is also a question pane down the right-hand side. We won't be answering questions as we go along. As I say, we're a bit strapped for time, but we will make a note of those questions and get back to you after the session. Okay. I talk to Microsoft Dynamics GP customers and prospects every day, and I have to confess that I'm starting to feel a little bit like poor Microsoft Dynamics GP is a bit like the gentleman in the top left-hand corner of the slide, who is Mark Twain. Mark Twain historically read his own obituary in the, I think it was the New York Times or the New York Post. I'm sure somebody out there will correct me. And the obituary read, "The rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated." That was his polite telegraph to them to just explain that he was alive and kicking. And I think that's my message to yourself today. Microsoft Dynamics GP is still alive, is still kicking. Some evidence for that. We're going to talk a little bit about product life cycles in a second, but Microsoft's fixed product life cycle or historical product life cycle, which came to an end in October 2019 with GP 2018 R2, actually has support now for Microsoft Dynamics GP extending to 2028. So if you're sitting on GP 2018 today, then Microsoft will be offering support to you until 2028. Your Microsoft partner is likely to offer you support beyond that, and we're still supporting clients who are on older versions of Microsoft Dynamics GP. There are still in the region, and this was a quick calculation that I did based on some conversations with the US, we still reckon there's in the region of 30 to 35,000 companies around the world using Microsoft Dynamics GP, and they are all sizes. Some of them are blue chip names that you would recognize, some of them are small users, but there's an awful lot of clients out there who are not going to be able to turn off GP overnight, and who will be continuing to use it for manufacturing, distribution, hospitality, professional services, you name it. They've got an awful lot of time and effort, money invested in GP. So from the existing product life cycle, it's not going away anytime soon. The new continuous product life cycle, which I'll talk about in a second, has actually got Microsoft Dynamics GP releases now scheduled till 2024. So The rumors of Microsoft Dynamics GP's death are possibly a little exaggerated. Dynamics GP is not going away, and it's not going away anytime soon. And believe it or not, we are still selling new Microsoft Dynamics GP licenses. We do get clients coming to us looking to buy specifically Microsoft Dynamics GP. That said, obviously the market is a changing place. The majority of people who are coming to us these days are looking for cloud-based solutions. They're looking for SaaS, which is software as a service, where you pay for your partner to provide you with software and consultancy services on a pay-as-you-go basis, which is not Microsoft Dynamics GP. Obviously, a lot of you guys have already paid for Dynamics GP and paid for it on premise. And there's good reason why those clients are looking for cloud-based solutions and SaaS offerings. We have just been through an exercise with the pandemic, where if you were on premise, it was often quite difficult to get access to your systems when you're working from home. And for a number of our Microsoft Dynamics GP clients, we actually migrated them into an Azure cloud to make that access more readily available. But SaaS has other benefits as well. It's often any device, any time, because it's obviously cloud-based. If you double the number of users on your system, you can go back to your managed service provider and say, look, I need to double the processor, I need more memory, I need more disk storage. Whereas if you've invested in an on-premise server, then that's a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to do. So cloud and SaaS is important for the future. And just to kind of underline that, this year, this financial year 2020, Microsoft informed me the other day in the meeting that their SaaS income this year for the first time has actually exceeded their on-premise income, which is quite a milestone really for them. And in terms of actual Azure regions, and Azure is Microsoft's cloud environment, they actually have more regions now than Google and Amazon Web Services combined. So Microsoft's focus moving forward is definitely going to be on SaaS, on the cloud, and that's definitely where they're going to be focused in the future. So yeah, we made the comment that Microsoft Dynamics GP is not going away, but the Microsoft Dynamics area, the universe, if you like, is changing. It is happening. Be aware and be prepared. And the best way you can be prepared is engage with your account manager, but also think about what you need as a customer, and find yourself a partner that can provide that. So Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Hosting, Microsoft Business Central possibly as a future are all important. Find yourself a partner who can work with you and provide those things, and Enhance does all those things as well. So that's my one plug for Enhance for today. So we mentioned that GP is going to be around for a while. We mentioned that things are changing though, and one of those changes is a change to the product life cycle. Historically, Microsoft would produce a product. So if we take a look there, you've got GP 2015 R2, which was launched in August 15. Typical life cycle for that would be 5 years mainstream support. And that would be one major release per year, which would include new features. And then what there would typically be, sort of 6, 8 months later, would be a follow-up release, providing bug fixes, taxation updates, things of that nature. This caused a few difficulties. So if you invested in Dynamics GP 2015 in August 15, you would then be looking maybe to run out of support 5 years later, and you'd be going back to your GP partner saying, look guys, we need to upgrade, we want to stay on mainstream support. And then you'd find that you run GP 2015 and 2016 would come along, 2018 R2. So the chances are you'd need quite a big upgrade. So it was easy to fall behind. Because the updates only came out every 12 months, there'd often be a long way for new features. And the other thing which was an observation that Microsoft made is when there was some sort of legislative change, because there would be only one update sort of 6 to 8 months later, it didn't make the product terribly reactive. So I remember when Making Tax Digital came out, I think it was 2016, 2018, versions were updated. There was a bit of running around like headless chickens trying to sort that out. So if you're on any of those releases, then the support terms, the mainstream support and extended support, will remain the same. It's only if you move on to a release post October 2019 that the new modern product lifecycle kicks in. So if you're on any of those leases, that's fine, you can stay on those leases. But if you move forward, the new product lifecycle will kick in, or the continuous product lifecycle. So just to talk briefly about that, the idea is that it's going to be more like a software as a service model, where there will be frequent changes, frequent updates, typically 3 updates a year, one which will include new features, and the others which will include bug fixes and taxation fixes. But Microsoft do reserve the right to sort of put additional releases in if required throughout the year, making the whole Dynamics GP product moving forward more agile. It's going to be more like a SaaS model. So I'm looking at GP 2015. It's just going to be Microsoft Dynamics GP with continuous updates going forward. And the other nice thing about this is because it's little and often, it's going to be more like a service pack upgrade than a big upgrade. So that will keep your costs down, will keep your version of Microsoft Dynamics GP more up to date. The only slight hiccup on that one is, in order to stay current, this is Microsoft terminology, you need to take at least one of these releases per annum. But given these releases are small updates, that will keep your costs down. And I know from my experience talking to other clients, little and often is much better than sort of a big bang every 5 years, where you're going through a system shutdown and lots of changes, lots of education, things of that nature. That kicks in for versions which are post October 2019, 12 months ago. But if you're thinking of upgrading, just be aware that this is the new modern product lifecycle and how it will affect your GP deployments going forward. Okay, I'm not going to dwell on the gory detail in terms of the detail in the product. I'm going to leave that to Sharon to do. Thank you, Sharon. But what I am going to do is just look at some of the other peripheral products that are coming out associated with Microsoft Dynamics GP. And it's all to do with, and I don't know if you've heard of the term Power Platform. I'm sure many of you have. But the Power Platform is around Business Central, is around SaaS, is around cloud. But some of the products and add-ins that Microsoft have actually created for that environment, they're actually deploying now with Microsoft Dynamics GP. So the first of those products is Power Apps. Power Apps is a really simple, easy to use platform that allows you to develop apps quickly for phones, tablets, or laptops, desktop devices. And what it allows you to do is automate data capture, automate forms. So instead of information being submitted to finance and then being passed on to finance for them to rekey, that information can go straight into Microsoft Dynamics GP if you want. What Microsoft have also done now is they have implemented Power Automate. So historically, Microsoft Dynamics GP had its own workflow, CRM had its own workflow, SharePoint had its own workflow, and never those 3 products should meet. What they're doing now is they've standardized that product onto Power Automate. So if you are working within Power Apps and you want to submit some information to GP and it needs to go through some sort of authorization process, you can use Power Automate to do that. And it doesn't just work with Microsoft solutions, it's actually got now about 400 other workflow connectors. So if you're using an expense management system or a time recording system, the chances are there might be a Power Automate plugin for that as well. And there are now in excess of 400 connectors for Power Automate. So that's the workflow solution now, which sits alongside GP. You've got Power BI. I don't know if any of you guys out there using it already. It's a reporting platform which allows you to create graphical reports. It allows you to slice and dice information. It allows you to drill back to transaction levels. And what we've done at Enhance is we've actually created a Power BI reporting pack for GP. So you can actually load that Power reporting pack and start reporting on GP straight away. We've also done one for our not-for-profit sector as well, specifically for sort of reporting. So Power BI is there if that's something that you want to use. In terms of the Power Platform, it's getting much, much closer to Office 365 now in terms of integration between things like Outlook, Word and Excel. And because of that, Microsoft Dynamics GP is going to see more integration with those desktop type tools as well. So that's all good news. And finally, at the back end of all this, we have Microsoft's cloud offering, Azure. Enhance provide all these solutions, and what we can do is we can support your GP on premise, we can support your GP in Azure, we can put GP in Azure for you if you want us to, and we can host that for you. We can do backups to Azure for you from your GP on premise, and should the worst happen and you actually have a failover, we can actually put some sort of disaster recovery in place, which allows you to restart your system in Azure, which is a really positive and a really good way to sort of start taking advantage of the features, even though you may already have on-premise investment today. So the message is very simple. Dynamics GP is not going away. If you've invested in it, that's fine. It's going to be around for some time. Continue to invest in it. But change is happening, and that slide there shows some of those changes, some of the new features, some of the new functionality. Be aware of what's there and be prepared. And as I say, talk to your account manager, reach out to Enhance. We've got a lot of knowledge around all those products, around Azure, around GP, around the Power Platform, and I'm sure that we can help. Just on those other sessions, following this session today, we've got a Business Central update, which my colleague Matt Peace is going to run. I've mentioned Power Apps. We've got Power Apps 101, try and say that. Power Apps 101 for Microsoft Dynamics GP at 1:30 if you want to have a look at what Power Apps involves. And at 2:15, we've got Power BI for Microsoft Dynamics GP. And then I'm back this afternoon at 3 o'clock with Joe Dealey to look at kickstarting your migration to the cloud, if that's something that you'd like to take a look at. Thanks for that. I think now I can hand over to Sharon. Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm going to be looking at the other monitor, and you don't particularly want to look at my right ear. Okay, so let me jump straight into product. So if I just show and hop straight into GP. What Matt was saying there about you know, the upgrades and it being like a service pack upgrade. To give you an example, this morning at 9:30, I was just having a flick through the slides to make sure I was on the same hymn sheet as Matt, and I spotted one of the changes in this month's release of GP, which I hadn't installed yet, and I wanted to show it to you. So I did an upgrade on this particular GP install right here at 20 to 10. Which was very brave or very foolhardy, not sure which. And so it was done before 10 o'clock. Now I only have one company, it's the sample company, but it's not, you know, it's not a very small company. It's small, but it's not very small. So that was done in, you know, less than 20 minutes. So there's much less downtime. Okay. So what I'm going to do is there's quite a lot of what's new in the GP 18, basically since October 2019. I am not going to go through every single thing, and I'm not going to sit down and just read from a list of we do this and we do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first of all my favorites. That sounds really pathetic, but it's been a long year, so anything you can get excited about, let's go with that. So I'm going to start off and show you my top 4 I was going with, but I've got this new feature that I wanted to show you that I was excited about, but it's maybe not as good as I thought it was going to be, but that's life. So first thing I'm going to show you is it's something really small, but for anybody out there who is the sysadmin in the system there, and if you're creating, say, new users or new currencies or even doing stuff for new companies, you go into the system menu in your versions prior to this one, and if you have 4 windows to open on that system menu, you enter the system password 4 times. Doesn't sound like a big problem, does it? But it's a pain, especially if it's a long password or it's you know, one of these modern passwords with all our lovely characters in. So now with this newer release, you only put it in once per session. So I can see a lot of people are probably going, so what? But anybody who does do this on a regular basis is going, oh, thank God. Okay, so that's one of our new things. So when I go into my system menu now, so if I hop into my administration pane, as if I was creating a new user, and I go into my, actually I don't have the password switched on. There you go. That's a live demo, folks. But you only have to enter it once. And for anyone who's been using GP since, as Matt described it yesterday to me, since God was a boy, as I have been years and years and years ago, you did have a push button that allowed you to do that. So they've basically kind of brought that back. So I really, really like that. The next thing I really like is workflows. So workflows have been around, you know, they were expanded in 2016, and in 2018 it has added, you know, reminder emails, you can copy settings and so on, but it's got some new workflows in there as well. And there's one of those that I really, really like. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole workflow setup and everything because I'm not that technical. And we do have people who are really, really good at this. But if I just flick in really quickly and I switch on, not that one, my workflow setup under company, there's one for doing payment runs. So you might say, okay, so payment runs. So I have quite a lot of clients, and when I worked in accounts myself, you would be going to do a payment run, and you would actually have to drag out the invoices you were going paying, or with modern computer systems, again showing my age, and you would print out a list of what was due, what you were going paying. You'd print that out, you go into your manager's desk, you leave it on their desk, they have to go through it, they have to take what they agree, yes, you can pay this, and then you come back in and you finish your processing. You don't have to do that anymore. I'm saving you that walk. If we switch on the payables approval here for payments, and this was set up for me by my colleague Michael Boyle, so I won't even pretend to know what it's doing, but it does look at your Active Directory. When that workflow is switched on, okay, and I go to my payables, and if I pop in here to my transactions, so within my payment windows, and I'm going to talk about these actually later because some of you mightn't even recognize the names of these anymore, but for a payment batch now, when I open my batch, so I've got a computer checks batch in here. Okay, wrong one. Sorry. And it says it's not been submitted. Okay, so this is a new thing. So you'll see a submit button up here. There's a view history to see a history of an approvals process. And you'll see this bar here giving you the status. If I switch off the workflows, that all disappears and you just see your standard batch window. So what happens when I hit the submit button? Now, I'm not going to show it to you in real time because I would have to be logging off and logging on as a different user to show you the approvals and everything. But what I can show you is I can show you what that email will look like. And so if it went to the finance manager, and they will get an email that looks like this. This is one that was generated from the system and then swapped between the two users earlier. If it opens, there we go. So this is what the email looks like. Now you can pretty this up in any way you want to make it that bit more elegant. Ignore that. So it's saying you've been assigned for a task, and do you want to approve it or not? You can put as much information in here as you want. This can be edited. As well as that, you can send the computer checks edit list. So this actually gives you a list of the payments in the batch, what creditors I'm paying, and what invoices I'm paying for those creditors. Okay, so they can open that, they can have a read of it, and if they say, okay, don't like that, they can reject. We're just experiencing an error opening the file. Okay. Again, live demo, this worked yesterday. But I'm sure you're all familiar with the edit list from when you print your edit list before posting your batches. It's a big bugbear of mine. And let's see if we can do it this way. Nope. I think they've rolled out updates on our computers. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I can show you the edit list in GP, but they get the full edit list. They can then go through it. If it's a thing that they want to reject it, when they reject it, and like I said, I can't do this because I'm not the finance manager, but it will pop up a box which will say, you know, it will give you a comment box. Let's see if this one works. Probably not because I'm not the finance manager. I'm just the person doing the work. So, okay, no. Well, that's going to take too long. So if they reject it or if they approve it, you will get a comment box, and you don't have to put in a comment, but if you put in a comment, it will go back to the person who is processing the batch, and they'll say, listen, I'm not paying Sharon Keegan, her demo is no good, so can't, you know, edit the batch and resend it. So you will come back then within GP. You will have your message saying it's been rejected. When you go into the history, you will see. So if I go back to my batch, and because this hasn't been submitted, I can find the one that has been submitted. No. I will be able to go into the view history and see why it was not submitted. And up here it will say it has been rejected. And you will know then to go in there and say it has been rejected. So that's kind of, like I said, I'm not very technical. I don't know the ins and outs of the background of workflows, but we do have people who are really, really good at it, and they will get you set up in no time. And that's what I really, really like. So that's payment batch approvals. That's the second thing I really like. These are in no particular order. Another one I like is you will find sometimes in your general ledger, and I'm sure there's some in here, that there's batches in your general ledger and you're not sure what they are, where are they coming from. Most of our customers have batch posting set up so that the posts, when you post a batch in your subledger, it goes straight through onto the GL accounts, okay? And in the system, if you do a transaction level post, so that means if I post a transaction without a batch, it will go to the general ledger and it sits there in a batch, maybe with lots of others that happened, and it waits to be posted on. And the accountant then is going, why are these sitting in my general ledger? What are they? And so on. They've got to go back and say, okay, so what is this from? Because maybe the person who posts in purchase ledger doesn't actually have access to post in general ledger, so they can't go in and do the posting on. Well, with this new version, we can now, within our posting setup, you can now tell the transaction posting to post through the general ledger files. So you don't have to do that anymore, okay? So if someone posts without a batch, it doesn't go and sit in the general ledger waiting to be approved and checked before being posted on. You can now actually set it up so that it posts straight through the same way as a batch does. So that's something that a lot of people have asked about over the years. And you'll find that with the updates now for GP, that Microsoft are taking on board things customers want. So if there is a feature in there that you think, oh God, I wish GP would do X, you can, via your customer source login, you can put it up as a feature request, and that gets published, and it allows other customers to vote on it. And if enough people say they want it, then Microsoft will consider putting it into the product. Okay, so let's have a look at customer source, and if you need more information on that, do give us a shout. Okay. Here's one I really like, and again, I think the accountants are going to like this one. When I go and do an inquiry on my journals, I can now see who posted it, who posted that journal. So I'm in his essay, so I obviously posted that. But a lot of times, particularly when the auditors are out, you know, you'll find around about March is a busy time for us, where on the support desk you will get calls saying, oh, we're trying to reconcile lists, and the auditors have asked, and how do I find out the user who posted? Now, you could pull it into a smart list, but now you can see straight away on the screen the user who posted this. Whose fault is it? In this case, it's the SA user. It's their fault. They shouldn't have posted that. And you can, but it also means you can go back and say, okay, so what was this about? Do you have any backend documentation, so on? You know, if your auditors are there and they're looking for that kind of thing. So those are my top 4 kind of things that I personally like. You can see that, well, workflows is a little bit big, and if you want more information or a demo of that, do give us a shout. A working demo where you can see it actually happening in real time. We do have those set up, and the 3 other ones are all simple. The system password, who posted this, you know, and posting through the GL. So they're all small things, but they could have made life difficult, you know. I think particularly this one, the user who posted. If you can track where it came from, then it's easier to find out, you know, if something has gone wrong and you're reconciling, you can go back through it. It feels strange to me not to be able to say, has anyone any questions on that, and take a pause, but yeah, so I do prefer presenting live. But like we said, send on the questions, we will do our best to answer them. Okay, so some of the other things in there. So what's this new feature that I went and took the risk of upgrading my system for? When back in, I think it was GP 2013 or 2 possibly, Microsoft brought in the lovely feature where you could copy and paste into a general journal from Excel. And every single time, without fail, that I was out on site showing this to customers, they would say, ooh, can we do that in the purchase ledger? And the answer was always no. Sorry, the accountants get the goodies. But Microsoft have actually now brought out a copy and paste from Excel into the purchase ledger. And I will show you that working now. So if I jump into my creditors ledger and go into transaction entry. Now, what it does, you go through and you process as normally. So I'm putting on an invoice, putting your description, so on. You pick your creditor. So I'm picking Ace Travel, and I'm going to click in here to the purchases field. When I click into the purchase field, I can now paste. So what am I pasting? So let's go back into Excel. And the same as we have with our general ledger journal copy and paste, okay, you have a template. It has to be in this template. All the fields don't have to be filled in, but it has to be this template, and you only copy this part, okay? You don't copy your headers. So what fields will it bring in? So creditor ID, because it's matching to the creditor. So the purchase amount, it's mainly the amounts of money. And I suppose that's why I said I was excited about it, but then I kind of not as excited about it. So it'll bring in the document number, the PO number, and any of the money information. So let's try that, okay? So if I copy that, and I jump back in here to my payables transaction, and I hit the paste button, it fills in my document number, my PO number, my purchase amount, trade discount, and so on. So what doesn't it do that you might have thought it would have done? Well, it doesn't do the distributions. The distributions come from the default distributions on your creditor setup, okay? So I think when I was thinking of the copy and paste from Excel previously, I was thinking about this window here, but this is the window that they're doing it in. So any questions on that, do give us a shout. That is in this October's release, so it's in the one that's just come out, okay? So it will copy and paste. I suppose yeah, that's it. Yeah, so if you want more information, again, please do give us a shout. So now I'm going to go back to my list. I'm not going to save that. And the format as well, I can send this to anybody who wants it if you are upgrading. When we do our upgrade or our what's new, I will give you the format. It's a little bit longer than the one for our general ledger, which is just the 4 columns. Okay, next then. So if we have a look back at some of the features that have been improved around GP. So hopefully you're all familiar with the document attach functionality. So let's say if I go into the creditor setup. I used to work as a payables clerk before I trained as an accountant, and I always seem to end up going back to creditors when I'm showing anything. So with our document attach functionality, so document attach originally came in 2015. And in GP 2016 R2, if you have that, they improved it with this little feature down here. And you can't see it because it's grayed out because I don't have a scanner attached to my computer. But if I have a scanner attached to my computer, you can click the scan button and it will scan directly from your scanner in there. So that came in GP 2016 R2. But they've improved this now, and they've added it so that you can now do it in other modules like your bank rec. So it is a little bit more comprehensive. And you can add multiple documents in here. You can allow them to be emailed. And it's very, very easy to do the document attach. So if I want to attach a document, I can pick one here. So if I go into my, pick a folder. I actually have an Excel file stuck in there at the moment. And pictures or documents. I actually have a document ready, but it's on the other computer because I forgot this is a VM. I have COVID brain, basically lockdown brain, I'm afraid at the moment. But yeah, so you can attach any kind of file that you want. Okay, so and you can delete these from here, so there's an not available for email and so on, but they do go into a deleted section in here so that you know it was on there at one point. Okay, so just to remember on that, you do have this document attach facility in GP 2015. You have the ability to scan in GP 2016, and you can email from 2016 or to on. You can email these attachments. That is useful possibly. I think I have one customer who, when they email sales quotes, they want to attach a load of blurb. So maybe 10, 20 pages of blurb. It's specifications for builds of industrial fridges, basically. And rather than have to type all that into something, they can actually, on the actual sales invoice itself, because it's available in there as well, they can actually do a document attach and attach that document to the sales transaction. And when they do that then and it's emailed, they can email the blurb with it. Okay, so that's our little bits about document attach. One other thing, actually, just quickly, I said I wasn't going to show much on workflows because, yeah, too technical, scared of them a little bit. One thing they have brought in on your user settings, okay, for workflows is you can actually do delegation in here. So you don't need an administrator to go in. When you're doing workflows, you can actually go in and say, I'm going to be on holidays. if anyone ever gets to go on holidays again, anywhere nice, not just out your back garden, which you wouldn't want to do today here, it's teeming rain. You can delegate, so I can say, okay, I'm going to be on holidays for 2 weeks and I'm going to delegate to Matt. So I could pick Matt in here and I could say, I'm going to be gone, from, the start of November to the end of December. I'm going to take 2 months off and Matt will have to approve. The other thing though is I can actually delegate, should I say, different workflow types. So I could say, okay, I'm going to send the payables ones there to Matt. I'm going to delegate my approvals there, and I'm going to send, purchase order approvals to Adam. Okay, so you can have different users in there as well. So that's one of the nice things. That's one of the improvements on workflow in this version. I hope that some of you are using SmartList Designer. We have had training courses online for these, and SmartList Designer that came in GP 2013 or 2, and now in our 2018 they've added some little presents in there for us. So within SmartList Designer, you can now, if you have a SmartList favorite, so let's see, I have one down here called Creditor with Email. I can now actually create a new SmartList Designer SmartList from an existing favorite. Okay, so you don't have to create them. There's 2 ways you can create them in versions prior to 2018, and those were you could do one from scratch, or you could do one from some of the existing views that were there. But now you can actually use your own favorites and create one from there. Okay, so that's something new in there. They've also brought in password protection on your favorites. So if I go down in here and click on my financial ones, so you don't think I've just set that one up. So accounts payable with name is one of my financial ones. It's one of my favorites. I can go into my favorite and I can password protect my favorite. So what does that mean? Does that mean that nobody can run it? No, it means nobody can modify it. Okay, so nobody can modify my favorite, because sometimes you'll find there's a favorite in there and someone goes in to make a change and they forget to do the save as. And if you remember, the save as in GP is to add a new one. So you make a change, you give it a new name and you click add favorite. Okay, so sometimes they forget to save as, the same as you will with an Excel file or a Word file, and they save and they actually have overwritten your SmartList, so now you can lock it. Okay, so that's a feature I do really like with that. And the other thing within SmartList, and this is not just Designer, is within the search function. Now again, you still only have 4 filter fields in here, but because of SmartList Designer, if you have SmartLists where, we'll say this one is, it's an accounts payable query, really and truly, I should build that into the SmartList Designer and leave myself the 4 available filters for filters I might want to do when I'm running these reports. But one of the things that they've added in here now is on the date fields, so if I pick the date, there are now more options in here. Okay, so you can actually scroll down, there's a whole list. So you can have beginning of quarters, prior month, all this kind of thing. Instead of having to know the dates and that, there's many more date options have been added. Okay, so that is a nice one. And remember, I'm not showing you everything that's new today. I'm just showing you kind of, here are the nice little easy ones, and here's the ones that that I like. Okay, so within the, I miss asking if anyone has questions, to be honest. I do miss the interaction. So you'll find me pausing every so often. I'm waiting for a question, and of course you're not allowed, so sorry about that. So within our report options, so when you create a report, say you're in sales and you've got a trial balance, and again, it's an age trial balance with options. You might have, well, I run in there with my initials SK. And if I click into that and have a look at the settings, let's say I have got a lot of settings in here, so I might have a lot of restrictions and so on, and I want to make a small change, but I also want to keep my original. You can now copy. Okay, so you can create a new report option with all the same restrictions. So let's say I just wanted to have one saved that was in detail with all the same settings. I can do a copy from, sorry, hang on, clear that. Clear. So I want to copy from my SK. Put in my SK2 one, very original, aren't I? And copy from option SK, and OK. So now it gives me the same, and I can make, say, that one small change that I wanted to make in there and save it. And now when I go back to my list of report options, I've got more than one. OK. So that's, again, it's something small. It's obviously something somebody requested. And it's just, these are all small little wins. They're time savers, okay? And, okay, go on and jump back to the payables module. Like I said, I always end up back in here because I was an accounts payable clerk before I was an accountant, before I was a GP consultant. So if any of you are looking at your older versions of GP, down here you had computer checks and bill checks, select checks, print checks, all that. But we don't use checks anymore. Most things are EFT now. So they have renamed the windows in order to, you know, make it more modern, and about time, you might say. So now when I go in, it says build payment batch instead of select checks. The window is almost the same. There's one nice little feature in here. You see this payment option ID. So in the same way that you can save report options, you can now save a payment option. What does that mean? Well, if I do a payment run every month, maybe I do 3 different payment runs. Maybe I do an employee expenses payment run, and a foreign currency payment run, and a base currency payment run, something like that. You can go in and you can create them in here, okay? So I have one in there called SK, again, very original. You see traces of me everywhere. That doesn't have any options in it, but you could go in other than my payment priority from 1 to 2. And I don't know if anybody uses payment priority. That's been around as long as I have. So this is my setup for SK, but you may have it in there that you want the class from employee to employee and so on, okay? And you can set that option, so you don't have to go in and set it up every time. So next month, when you go to run that option, you just come in here, you put in your batch ID, and you select the option you want, or you create a new one, okay? So you save your options. So that's something new in this window, okay? The other thing new, of course, is, again, it's not print checks, edit check batch. It's now print payments, edit payment batch, and edit vendor payments, okay? When I go in here to my edit payment batch screen, let's save you. There's something new in here now as well. I hope you can see this. It's quite dim, and I guess the screen is not very big, but it's like a little email almost option. It's a little envelope, okay? And down here you'll say indicates the vendor is set up for EFT. So because we're doing EFT in the system now, it's most people are doing EFT with a combination of that and manual checks. You will go in here now and say, okay, well, I wasn't doing an EFT batch because I didn't actually, when I created this batch, I didn't tick that it was an EFT batch. It has excluded these creditors because they're EFT. Now, you could put them in if you wanted, but it's just warning you, listen, these are EFT, okay? That's on the payments. Everything else is pretty much the same around the payments, other than those names have changed, okay? We do have something else in payables that I like, and it didn't make my top 5, but it is something that I like. You may have noticed when I went in to do the copy and paste on the transaction, this nice long field here called long description. So what we have now is on the payables setup, you can turn this on. So enable long description in payables transaction entry. And the reason for that then is you don't have to go and put a big long blurb maybe into the comments button, because this was quite restricted. I think it was 50 characters in here. So you now have this nice long, I think it's 200 character description. Okay, so you can add in more information on your payables invoice. Okay, again, it's another small one, but it's something you go, oh, right, okay, that's good, because, you know, finally I don't have to be kind of, you know, using my own version of shorthand that even I can't read 6 months later. Okay, so that's another kind of nice little thing in there. And just back to my checks batch again. See, I'm using it a long time. It's still checks batch in my head. Okay, but on your batches, normally when you go to create a new batch of computer checks, okay, so I'm going to call this MHA instead of SK, just to be different. It's still called computer checked in here. You notice they missed one. Okay, within here, normally when you would pick computer check, okay, as the origin, regardless of the payment method here, the checkbook ID would be blank. You would have to pick which checkbook you were going to be doing it from. This, well, it was always pain because you'd forget and you go to save, and okay, it's only a couple of seconds, but it's still, you know, you're busy and maybe you're having a bad day already and it's just annoying. And but now this field populates automatically with your default checkbook. You can change it, of course, but it populates with the default checkbook. So again, another small thing that we like. How are we doing for time, guys? I think we only have a few minutes left.
About 5 minutes left, Sharon.
5 minutes left. Okay, so out of my list, what can I show you that people would like? Okay, on the all-in-one view in purchasing, so I'm going to try and show you things that maybe you haven't seen in your newer versions of GP. In our purchasing all-in-one view, which I hope you're all using, I think it's around since GP 2015, they've now added the vendor document number. So if I pick Ace Travel, and I can now see my vendor document number is in here as well. So you didn't used to be able to see that. You saw the voucher number and the document date and the amount, but now you can see their document number as well, which does make that a little bit easier. So if they're calling up and saying, I'm chasing a payment for invoice 1001, you don't have to go back to the creditor inquiry window. You can use the functionality of this nice all-in-one window that we have here. Okay. There's also a new template available for purchase orders. So if you're printing purchase orders from the system, at the moment, when you print, if you wanted to email, you could only email the blank paper, but you can now do the other form. There's a template available now for the other form as well. And yeah, I think I've quite a few bits in here. I'd love to give you another session, and maybe we'll do a webinar later in the year or early next year with some more of the what's new features. I hope that there's things in there for everybody, and that you got something from this. And if you do want any more information on GP, please do contact us, as Matt said.
Sharon, is it possible to pop up the last slide?
Yes, I was just going to do that.
Terrific.
I'm not quite Debbie McGee to your Paul Daniels just yet.
No, you're better. Yeah, thanks, Sharon. We're obviously conscious of time. There's an awful lot there. It's not just about the product in terms of the functionality which Sharon's shown you. It's all about those other features that I've talked briefly about: Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, and how they're going to help you get more value for money out of your Microsoft Dynamics GP install. Whatever your requirement is, whether you're looking for hosting, whether you're looking for disaster recovery, whether you're looking for upgrading your GP to the latest version of GP, or possibly moving to something like Business Central. The great news is with Enhance, we can help because we've got all those bases covered. If you are an existing customer, contact your account manager. If you want to give myself or Sharon a shout, our emails are on the screen there. As a generic email, if you're not sure who to speak to, then you're very welcome to contact us at say hello. That was my best Scouse hello, that was. Say hello at m-hans.com. Thanks for your time today. I hope you've enjoyed that. And as Sharon says, there'll be more sessions later on in the year, which I'm sure we'll promote and advertise to you with newer features. I hope that's okay, guys. Thank you for your time today. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of the MTech event. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.